Here we are. We're on. Okay. So, welcome to the Leo Zagami show. And of course, is also my wife, Crazy Zagami. And of course, we are discussing the untold secrets of the Bohemian Club today. And we will see what comes out of it. But definitely, we will try to dig deep like nobody has done ever before. Christy, what do you know about the Bohemian Club and the Bohemian Grove?
Only what I read in your book. You mentioned it. That's all I know. And that Alex Jones documentary. That's all I know.
We don't have many people. They seem to say that maybe we blocked also on YouTube. Let me see. Let's see if we are. It might not be the case, you know. It says here that we are transmitting. It says here that we are transmitting. I'm checking out.
I got so disappointed.
No. We try.
See how disappointed I get?
Yes, we're trying. We're trying our best. We are blocked, of course, on the other channel, the
main channel.
The main channel. But here we go. We seem to have a few people, so we can start with the music before, of course, thanking our sponsors. Here we go. Okay, everybody, I gave you a couple of minutes to tune in. Today is a very special episode. We will be discussing the untold secrets of the Bohemian Club. We also dedicated an article to this subject, and we will be digging deep. We will be doing it, of course, also with the help of some of my past books, some other books from other people that can come in handy. We remind all of you that an opportunity rises for us every time you buy a book. We can be incentivized in doing more episodes, and we put these books all linked in the description of the video, no? Of the video. Okay. So while everybody's tuning in, today we have a problem because we are not on our main channel, the English channel, and we have very few people compared to how we used to. Most people follow us on the other channel. We will, of course,
maybe you guys can share this around.
Yeah, we will broadcast it after, you know, on the channel, even if it's at a later date. So people, remember, you should always subscribe to all the channels that I put in the link, because that's a way of being able to follow us, no? Okay, so here we are with the subject of today, the Bohemian Club and the Bohemian Grove.
Do you want me to thank the sponsors?
Yes, of course, yes.
That's important.
That's important, absolutely.
Okay, so we would like to thank this week Bruce Kodish and Philippe Belair and Johnny Underwood and Pina. Thank you very much for your donation. Very, very kind of you. And thank you for everybody for buying the book. Yay! And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Yay!
I know it's a little bit hard when we are so few, but we are broadcasting on Facebook, on YouTube, and unfortunately our main English channel was blocked. Because
silly.
Yes, because
we won't say it again.
But actually, to tell you the truth, Christy, I made an appeal and it has not been replied yet. After all these days, we are 2 days later.
They always reply?
Yeah, they usually reply within the next few hours, but this one is on hold.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. It's just like this appeal is on hold. Well, let's move further, because I mean we have a lot to discuss regarding an organization that was born 151 years ago in 1872. Is that right? Yes. 1872.
I don't know.
I'm just doing the maths.
Matt?
the math. Okay, yes. So a little over 150 years ago, a group of people calling themselves Bohemians, because Bohemian basically was this movement of people in 1850s France, Paris in particular. Now they used to call themselves the Bohemians, and Bohemianism became a way of life for wanderers, adventurers, vagabonds, but particularly artists, always with traits of quite precariat, kind of like a little bit in a fragile economic condition, maybe, but still very much focus on art. So this term Bohemianism emerged in France in the early 19th century, and in some way they want us to associate it with the Bohemian Club. However, it seems like, like in every secret society, there is a understanding by the profane outwards, and there is a better understanding of things inwards for the initiates. So the Bohemian Club was born in 1872, and it was born out, of course, of a necessity in those years to create these fraternities, especially after there have been a lot of an increased, let's say, persecution of Freemasonry that made it almost necessary to create also some alternatives. No? And at the same time, we have, of course, the Illuminati in Germany. They didn't last long, but they inspired many others. And we know, of course, that a disciple of Adam Weishaupt founded the League of the Just, that, of course, gave the possibility to Karl Marx to publish his manifesto. It's always in Germany, we have a lot of secret societies. And in Germany, we find, in fact, a couple of links to the possible inspiration of the Bohemian Club. And of course, the Bohemian Club is known for its retreat, the Grove in Sonoma County, that is, of course, famous worldwide, those immense trees and rather fabulous, but also very famous because at one point, of course, my colleague Alex Jones entered this place. He managed in some way to get in and to do this legendary filming now that everybody knows about. That kind projected this rather reserved secret societies to the popularity of the internet. It became very popular before the QAnon days to discuss a lot what was going on in the Bohemian Club. But it's still very important. I mean, during the pandemic, Nancy Pelosi's husband was very upset because she couldn't go. He couldn't go to the Bohemian Grove. This place that we call Bohemian Club, however, it's let's make it very clear. There is a grove, of course, which is like in this beautiful forest, and then we have also the club. The club itself, so there is a secretive all-male summer camp, because the membership of the Bohemian Club has always been for men only. There were a few women, but very few, like 3 or 4 that joined up until the 1920s. But in any case, they didn't really manage to establish a female branch. It's been always a men-only club. And they have been possibly associated with a secret society called Schlaraffia. Now, we talked already about the Schlaraffia because, I don't know if you remember, Christy, we talked about the Schlaraffia in the context of occult Nazism, because the Schlaraffia is a German-speaking fraternal society that was founded in Prague, which used to be part of the Austrian Empire in 1859, with, of course, a pledge of friendship, art, and humor, but also a symbol, the owl, just like the Illuminati. So kind of perpetrated the symbol of the Illuminati, the symbol of Minerva, interpreted this necessity of the German people to come together and gather also in situations that were not strictly Masonic, but in this case, paramasonic. Now, the actual knowledge of a connection with the Schlaraffia, because Schlaraffia was born, but then it kind of had different headquarters, and then it spread all over the world, because nowadays it still exists. It's a way to socialize for Germans who are around the world, you know, like almost like a Goethe cultural center or whatever. There was, though, a secret society a little bit more serious in the sense that Schlaraffia is not serious. Schlaraffia actually was the one that initiated the Karl Maria Willigut. That's why we talked about the Schlaraffia in regards to the occult Nazis. Karl Maria Willigut was the guy who, this old colonel, German colonel, who joined in the 1930s the SS. He was rather old at that point, but he joined the SS, and he inspired the reconstruction of the castle of Wewelsburg. So Karl Maria Willigut had joined the Schlaraffia many years before, and then after that he also started to become passionate about Ariosophy, Irminism, basically mingling with that theosophical milieu that, of course, brings us to the German section of the Theosophical Society, Franz Hartmann, the people who inspired really, but also the Austrian section, which inspired so much Adolf Hitler, even the symbol of Nazis. The Schlaraffia Lodge, he was initiated in 1889. While I'm talking about Karl Maria Willigut and the Schlaraffia order, is because there is a gentleman who is an academic, Richard B. Spence, this gentleman here, who mentions about this order, and also talks about it in this article that I'm going to show you for Wondrium. Wondrium is this, they make courses, no? The kind of like courses. So Richard B. Spence, who is an expert in intelligence matters, intelligence history and whatnot, is somebody who knows a lot. I mean, he studies, he has access to, you know, archives. It's very much. So what he writes here is that he was inspired by, he divides, he says, the Schlaraffia, which chose the owl of Bohemian, its totem and part of the Masonic issue. Both the Bohemian Club and Schlaraffia focus on having fun, and so it would be safe to assume that the Bohemians will initiate the American version of the Schlaraffia, a concept which I picked up also in my article earlier today. But the article was actually talking about something contemporary, which I'm going to discuss in a second. Regarding instead the Schlaraffia, apparently there is a connection also with the order of the Sat Baha'i. Now, it's very important that we discuss this order and the Asiatic Brethren, because the Asiatic Brethren, okay, so here it says very clearly something that is going to bring us right at the heart of Sabbatean Frankism. Here it says, but there is also another possibility about the origin of the Bohemian Club. There was another occult secret society called the Sat Baha'i in Prague, also known as Asiatic Brethren. It had a combination of Jewish Kabbalah, alchemy, and ritual magic, just like any other secret society in crossover in membership in different orders. Sat Baha'i members belong to Sharafia simultaneously. Okay, now the main guy of the Sat Baha'i was John Yarker, who will sell his 33 degree in 1910 to Aleister Crowley, the patent. But apart from that, the Sat Baha'i, we will go back and discuss a little about the Sat Baha'i. But why am I discussing their inspiration towards? Because here the Asiatic Brethren, it's very important. This thing about the Asiatic, because the founder of the Asiatic Brethren, so apparently the Bohemian Club was inspired by a lodge of the Asiatic Brethren who was connected to the Sat Baha'i in Prague and who was connected with the foundation of this German fraternity, the Sharafia. But the head of the Asiatic Brethren, the founder, was the cousin of Jacob Frank.
Imagine that.
It was the cousin of Jacob Frank, guys. The cousin of Jacob Frank. I'm talking about Moses Dobruska. So here we have a direct link with the Sabbatean Frankism and the Bohemian Grove that nobody else has ever talked about. Because it's, of course, good that Richard B. Spence talks about the Sharafia. It's good that other authors do that. But when it comes to Franz Thomas Helder von Schoffeld, who was basically elevated to nobility, but his real name was Moses Dobruska, and he was, as you can see, his mother was the first cousin of Jacob Frank, who claimed to be the Jewish Messiah and the founder of the Frankist sect. And he was became one of the main activists of the Masonic Lodge, which was also the order, Knights of St. John, the Evangelist of Asia in Europe, which is basically the Asian Brethren, okay, as they're known, the Asian Brethren. So the Asian Brethren was connected to the Sabbatean Frankist, of course, there's a direct connection, it was the cousin. And then they were also connected, of course, to the Jesuits through the Golden Rose Croix. So there is a connection here, and it's very interesting, with something that brings us right at the heart of Sabbatean Frankism and also at the heart of the struggle of Judaism in Europe that at time had some problems with Freemasonry. In fact, after that, gave birth also to, in fact, here to the B'nai Brit. Here it says in the early 1790s, the merged organization known initially as the Ritter Delish, Knights of the Light, and later as their Bruder Saint Johannes the Evangelist, the Asiatic Brethren of St. John the Evangelist in Europe. Now, the Order of the Asiatic Brethren stands out among German Masonic and Paramasonic organizations of its day, chiefly on account of the way in which it welcomed Jewish members, at least for a time, and was steeped in Jewish esoteric lore. So, in some way, this formation of people inspired the very roots of the Bohemian Club. However, we also know that unfortunately Sabbatean Frankists after were also very much involved in the birth of Nazism. We know what happened with, we discussed it when we discussed the occult side of Nazism in 2 episodes. We discussed both the origins and then the actual ongoing occult side of Nazism in 2 episodes that you can find on the Leo Zagami channel, as well as this channel, I think, because we have always broadcast also on this channel, on the Lesule, all the episodes. Today we are not broadcasting as we usually do because we are blocked on the Leo Zagami show channel, the main English-speaking channel.
For stupid reasons. So.
For a very stupid reason. We have appealed and they have not yet given us an answer. Please support our work. We are putting here on the screen, of course, one of the modalities that you can use to support our work. We are back on Foundry. We have also GoFundMe, and we have Cash App. These are free modalities. You can, of course, find them in the description of the video. I'm going to put it here on the screen. And here we go. And of course, we will broadcast this later on, Christy, on as soon as in 5 days, I think they will unblock the other.
We'll be back next week, right?
So we'll be back next week on our main channel, and people who watch this in replica will, of course, know that we had been blocked, and so we couldn't do the live on that show. You can find the Santilli video on Rumble and on our BitChute channel. We have uploaded over there. So remember, guys, when you don't find things, you can find them alternative on our Rumble, on our BitChute channel, on the other YouTube channels. So never give up. Never give up. It's not good to give up. Regarding the connection, you know, the Schlaraffia, this kind of, they're very close, of course, to. They are, I mean, a German network, and they were also very close to the Nazis at one point. Like we said, Maria Billigut was part of them from a very early stage of their existence. So what happens, I mean, when we're talking about the Bohemian Grove, there is an episode that happened once that makes me think there is definitely a connection with this German secret society, because immediately after the war, there used to be an ex-Nazi who was actually working there at the Bohemian Grove, going around in a Jeep, even with the Nazi symbol and everything, and apparently President Ford made them remove it at one point.
What?
Yeah,
All these Nazis in America?
Well, of course, Nazis were all brought to America under Operation Paperclip. So they were the scientists that built NASA and everything else. So,
do you think that Hitler really died?
Well,
do you think he's?
No, I'm not really into that kind of thing. I don't really care, to tell you the truth. I think History Channel has a lot of time to waste, but whatever. In any case, it doesn't change my life. I think about the now, and definitely the Bohemian Grove. Actually, the Bohemian tragedy here, the Vanity Fair article was written in 2009, was very interesting because it mentions this whole thing about about this Nazi that used to go around. And of course, I wish I have here. Let me use this other browser, because we have one browser that's not working that great. So I wanted to just show our. We know who are the big members. We know also that in the Bohemian Grove every year there is various events. There is not only there is in July, of course, the encampment and the thing, and they apparently do all kinds of things during this event. But then we have also a smaller event called the spring picnic kind of thing that goes on instead, I think, in June, which is weird because I mean in spring, but it's June, so I don't know. This article,
spring fling.
I don't know. So what happens is that at the moment they're having some big problems in the Bohemian Grove because they are the stingiest people on the planet, like I wrote in a recent article I made for leozagami.com. They had already had problems 5 years ago. The workers of the club, which includes like 2 theaters, bar, things, you know, it's a nice venue in San Francisco. And then they have this place in Sonoma County. But this is what 5 years ago, the workers of the Bohemian club, because the club employs around 100, complained they were not even paid minimum wage. And now in the last few days, there's an even bigger scandal with the workers at the Bohemian Grove that were literally working in very, very precarious conditions, if not illegal in the modality. They were not respecting the minimum wage here in California since 2008. It's $15.50. But check this out. This was
some workers who cater to the richest of the rich in the Bay Area say they deserve to get paid more. The strike is underway this evening at San Francisco's elite Bohemian Club. As KPX5's John Ramos explains, men pay thousands to be in this club, but some of the workers are paid less than $15 an hour.
The San Francisco building being picketed today has no signs, just a plaque with a picture of an owl and the mysterious inscription, "Weaving spiders come not here." This is the Bohemian Club, an exclusive playground including a restaurant, bar, art gallery, and 2 performing arts theaters. It's a home away from home for some of the richest and most powerful people in the city. But today, the other half had their say.
When regular San Franciscans see what's happening at this opulent club in the heart of our city, they'll say that's unacceptable.
About 100 service workers, waiters, bussers, bartenders, etc., began a 2-day walkout to protest low wages. They're in negotiations for a new contract. The last one expired 8 years ago. And longtime server Cody Afshar says people may be surprised to learn how little the people who serve the wealthy get paid.
For 27 years they work, for 33 years they work, for 10 years they work. They get $14.11, $14.50, something like that.
But club spokesman Sam Singer denies that its service staff is underpaid and says it is the union that is dragging its feet in the negotiations.
This week we implemented a $2.50 across the board pay increase to all the employees, and in some instances even more money. We hope the union gets serious and comes to the table with an economic package as well as non-economic issues so we can reach an agreement.
Both sides agree that the workers and members have a good relationship. This fight is between a union and club management. But as employees fight for higher wages, in this case, they're not buying that it would cause an economic hardship. Do you think the Bohemian Club is actually hurting for money?
No, not really. Not really. They are afford to pay for it. You know, they really afford.
In San Francisco, John Ramos, KPIX5.
So this happened 5 years ago. You think, after 5 years they will have learned their lesson. No, apparently things got even worse. And what I'm going to show you now is basically the scandal that everybody's talking about, whereby these free ballots claiming they were forced to endure horrific working conditions inside the Bohemian Grove this time, not inside the Bohemian Club. And they were forced to work non-stop 16-hour shifts. And without going to a bathroom, without being allowed to go to a bathroom, without being allowed for any form of lunch, dinner, break, even a sandwich, anything. This is basically what the Bohemians are doing. I mean, they started by calling themselves Bohemians, and you think, they will like, they will champion maybe their work, the poor people who work for them, trying to help them out. Instead,
Bohemian's a whole vibe, though. It's like a whole fashion thing.
Yeah.
And now it's a whole vibe, and like people like dress Bohemian, and
it's now
like my friend Kathy, she likes Bohemian style. Not me so much. But
okay.
Sorry.
Okay. But what I'm saying here is that basically there has been now a sort of class action against these people, because obviously after 5 years they must have not learned their lesson, and now they're getting sued. But I don't understand. The Bohemian Club members pay at least $25,000 a year. Okay? They don't really have many expenses because what they do every year, their spectacles they organize and all the rest, is all done by them. They don't call anybody externally. They have their own entertainers, their own musicians, their own artists, their own actors. That was one of the focus was to actually initially welcome artists, and then the business people took over the show after, little after, like the businessmen then helped also buying the land of the Grove and all the rest. Here it says, free from alleged series of labor violations, including working non-stop 16-hour shift without a bathroom or lunch break. I mean, that is really outrageous.
Yep.
Outrageous. Absolutely.
Other low-life people. What do you expect? Look what they do in there.
Huh?
They probably do bad stuff over there in the club.
I have a couple of videos that will give us a more clear idea of what goes there on there. One is from 1982 and one is from 1981. Let's check it out. All together. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy.
Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger canceled plans to go to Bohemian Grove in California this weekend because of the possibility of more flare-ups in the Lebanon crisis. But even without the Defense Secretary, the Bohemian Grove will not close down for lack of power. And what is the Bohemian Grove? Well, it's a kind of summer camp for the powerful, an all-male gathering in great secrecy. More from Dennis Murphy.
George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, and West German Chancellor Schmidt arrived by car. The chairman of General Motors and U.S. Steel came in by private jet.
If you would look at the guest list over a period of 5 years, I don't think there would be anybody of any importance in America who was missing from that list.
Cabinet officers and captains of industry are going to summer camp at Bohemian Grove, an all-male retreat secluded in the Redwood Forest 2 hours north of San Francisco. Outsiders are not invited. What's hidden away is a little bit of Boy Scout camp and a lot of fraternity hokum. There are rituals, bonfires, and the burning of effigies. The members live in lodges with names like Wolf and Caveman. Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz are bunkmates at Mandalay Camp. President Reagan's camp, Owl's Nest, is famous for its Eggs Benedict and Ramos Gin Fizz breakfast. But for the most part, stories about what happens in these redwoods are hard to come by. A campground statue reminds Bohemians to keep their mouths shut about the Grove.
I've heard a lot of good music there. I've met a lot of interesting people, and I look forward to listening to music again.
But there are employees who tell tales out of school.
I mean, half of these guys, from what I can tell, stay loaded or stay bombed, the entire time that they're there. I mean, they stagger into breakfast and stagger out from dinner. But at the same time, they're talking business.
And sometimes those business talks send ripples far beyond the Grove. Sociology professor William Domhoff.
Reagan and Nixon talked at length in 1967 in the Grove to decide who would go first in Republican primaries.
While decision makers are cementing friendships, protesters outside the gate are keeping a vigil. To them, the Bohemian Grove is an all-white, all-male, undemocratic policy-making arm of the government. They want the Bohemians to go home. But summer camp won't end until next week. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Monterey, California.
So this was 1982. Now we go back 1 year and let's check what was going on in 1981. Of course, there is a lot of information that I can also pick up from my own book, Volume 1, because at one point, like I always said also to Christy, I ended up going to Fort Collins, and I was guested by one of the high priests of the Bohemian Grove, a member of the Bohemian Club who is called John Compact. And I had a conversation with John, alias Frater Arthur, which is also a member of the Ordo Rosa Aure, Golden Rose Croix, senior member of Paracelse Society, which I transcribed in my book. In my book, you find also this, for example, which is Prince Philip in the Grove. Even he went to the Grove. Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth, and then, of course, Ronald Reagan in camp, provided the girls for camp where Reagan elite loved to frolic.
No, we didn't. What about Nancy?
Oh no, man! And of course, we have a lot of stuff that we can discuss when it comes to the Grove. But let's go, like I said, to this other piece of news from the early 80s that can give us more specific about this Grove. And about
now a question. What have Herbert Hoover, Art Linkletter, Jack London, and Richard Nixon all had in common? Well, they've all been members of the exclusive all-male Bohemian Club in California, where every year at this time, the elite from around the country get together for 2.5 weeks of fun and games. Steve Shepard has this special assignment report.
More than 2,000 members of San Francisco's exclusive and all-male Bohemian Club have once again descended on Northern California. These men will spend most of the month of July encamped on some 2,700 acres of pristine and privately owned redwood forest. Forest very much like this. The place is called Bohemian Grove, and it's located just 80 miles north of San Francisco. The Grove is the Bohemian Club's summer retreat, and its facilities are hidden beneath lush forest canopy extending south from the banks of Sonoma County's Russian River. For more than a century, the camp has been a place where club members and guests from all across America gather to relax. The retreat is divided into dozens of small camps, the most prominent of which is called Mandalay. Among its members are businessmen like Leonard Firestone and Edgar Kaiser, and political figures like Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz. President Reagan, Vice President Bush, and Defense Secretary Weinberger are members of other camps. Richard Nixon is a Bohemian, and so are high-ranking executives of such companies as Eastern Airlines, Standard Oil of Indiana, and Bank of America. For the most part, the men of Bohemian Grove are over 50, highly successful, and, according to many employees, politically conservative.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Membership in the Grove is by invitation only and is determined by such factors as social standing, occupation, and personal connections. Privacy is one of the Grove's most cherished virtues. Members may not photograph, record, speak, or write about activities at the retreat. While many public officials are Grove members, the press is a distinctly unwelcome guest.
We're from ABC News.
Well, get back there. Get back there.
Can we talk to somebody in the...
Get back there.
Anyone willing to navigate a boat up the Russian River can get a glimpse of the northern edge of the compound, but that's about all. Still, there are outsiders who have researched the Grove. Sociology professor William Dumhoff found out enough to write a book on the place.
Well, I think it's a playground for the powerful. It's a place where wealthy men from all of the United States gather for 2 weeks to relive summer camp with this ceremony called the Cremation of Care that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell and hand each other a beer. And
other regular activities include the production of 2 plays, one of which involves major sets, orchestral music, and extravagant costumes. The other play appears to be just a bit on the lighter side, at least judging from these old photos. Members also spend time swimming, hiking, relaxing in the sun, and doing a bit of drinking from the Grove's own privately labeled spirits. Like a boys' camp, the Grove has a symbol, in this case, a somewhat fierce-looking owl. It also has a patron saint, St. John of Nepomuk, a legitimate 13th century Bohemian canonized for his sense of honor. What the Grove does not have is any women, not even as employees. Despite its camp-like atmosphere, the Grove does host some serious business.
To the degree that there's anything important happens at the Bohemian Grove, it's political. The important speeches that have been made at the Bohemian Grove have been made, for instance, and the best example, by Richard Nixon. Eisenhower gave a speech there. It was the first time the West Coast establishment really saw him close up.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb. It was at the Grove in 1967 that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan hashed out differences over their presidential ambitions. Each year, guests like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski address members on their areas of expertise. Presidential counselor Edwin Meese will be among this year's speakers. And each year, other guests come to the Grove simply to enjoy themselves. This year, CIA Director William Casey is a scheduled guest of John McCone, former CIA Director. Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn has been invited as a guest of baseball owner Peter O'Malley. Despite the presence of so many notables, the Grove is not without its small headaches. Anti-nuclear demonstrators gathered near the entrance to the retreat this year to wave signs and chant slogans. The Grove is also facing a suit from the state of California because it refuses to hire women. Still, the Bohemian Grove seems in no danger of passing. Herbert Hoover called it the world's greatest men's party, and there is a list of powerful people waiting to get in on it. Steve Shepard, ABC News, San Francisco.
You know, there is like long waiting. Like you have to wait for like 15 years to get in, and then you become basically an old guard of the elite only after 40 years of membership. So 40 years of membership.
And you become what?
An old guard. So, sorry, we had just the internet going off for a second. What happened, as you know, with Alex Jones, he actually managed to break in with his camera and Mike Hansen. He apparently got in a clandestine way in the Bohemian Grove during the cremation of care ceremony. It was July 15, 2000. And it was, of course, an event everybody talked about all over the world. Finally, we had some images of this ritual, and of course, I will be playing just a brief extract of that famous video.
Here you have the boatman, his face was painted up like a skull, bringing the bound body across the water. Again, we'll have enhanced video of this later. And let's see if you can pick up all of the different occultic meanings in the speeches you're about to hear.
They seem to play some very old 20s music, you know? Now, the tradition of the cremation of care started when the founder of the co-founder of the Bohemian Club had left for New York, and they kind in 1878, 6 years after the foundation of the club, they made this outdoor celebration, and from there they started this tradition that then, of course, after a little while, included also a ritual that was put together, and this is in fact a ritual, the cremation of care, where they sacrifice it's basically the mocking of child sacrifice.
Majesty is death. No ardent enemy of beauty. Not for thee fight dust. Bring fire!
Now, this sacrifice for them is the sacrifice of the spirit of care, and slain by the Jinx hero and solemnly cremated. And basically, this full immersion, this purification and cleansing, which they call the cremation of care, it's an annual ritual production that they put together in front of this 40-foot tall image of an owl and a small artificial, you have this small artificial lake. Of course, everything is very picturesque. Like we said, Alex managed to infiltrate this event, and it was very dramatic, this performance, at least to witness this performance, because it's supposed to be dramatic. There is, of course, a political nature to these meetings, but there also this rather occultistic ritual, because, I mean, it's not really like your typical Masonic ritual. It's not even... it is a rather dark ritual, which brings us, of course, to what are these people really doing here? They are, of course, almost druidic, the way they're celebrating with this midsummer celebration, which, of course, the druids will have done with the bloody sacrifice. Here, we are always told it was simply a mocking. There is nothing really that gets sacrificed. In the earlier productions, there was even at one point another kind of mocking, which we don't know if it was mocking or if it was something else. I've published this pic on in my book, which let's see if I can find for you, but I think I can also maybe have it here. I can show you this pic. They basically seem to have sacrificed, or at least they were sacrificing, mocking. I don't know if they were doing it for real, but this is the body of a young black boy.
That's messed up.
Here. Now, here we have the photo, and this is basically 1909 at the Bohemian Grove, and I can see.
They probably sacrificed them because they're evil, evil, evil.
Now, it's pretty strange that for the mocking sacrifice, they pick up a little black boy. Was it only a mocking sacrifice? This is really...
I don't think it's a mocking thing. I always looked at that in your book as real.
It is definitely something very disturbing. I mean, this photo leaves little or no doubt. I think there's something wrong going on, because when you have a black child, some say possibly even a midget, and in the background we have also a police officer participating to this whole thing. The picture was taken at the Bohemian Grove, like I said, in 1909. So I'll leave it up to you guys, but definitely some weird stuff goes on into the Grove.
upon your fire. Wow. Prince of all mortal wisdom, Owl of Bohemia, we beseech thee, grant us thy counsel. Thank thee for thy adjuration. Begone, dull care. Fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull care. And all the winds make merry with thy doubts. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
And so it goes, and so it goes. The legendary video that Alex managed to film in a clandestine way inside the Bohemian Grove in the year 2000. There were those some consequences for because of There was a guy who apparently took this whole thing very at heart. He was called Richard McCaslin, a former Marine cosplayer, real-life superhero, Batman stuntman at Six Flags Astroworld, and convicted felon. This guy will end up actually dying in a very strange way. What happened was this. I'm gonna show you what happened. First of all, I want to show you the guy here. This weirdo, top weirdo. He was fascinated, of course, with the comic books, and at one point in 2002, after, of course, watching Alex's video, he was, after seeing the documentary film Dark City Inside Bohemian Grove by Alex, he dressed as his alter ego, the Phantom Patriot, and he wanted to really go there and harm some people. He was, of course, worried. He believed that there were, of course, child sacrifice associated with Moloch. And he, wearing a skull mask and a blue jumpsuit with Phantom Patriot written in red on his chest, McCaslin entered the campground armed with a pump-action rifle, shotgun hybrid, a 45 caliber handgun, but I don't know what he wanted to find, because I don't think he even went during the meeting. So it's January. I mean, nothing really goes on in January at the
Did he go to that grove and then he was gonna like shoot it up, but there was nobody there but squirrels and chipmunks?
yeah. I mean, he was later convinced of felony charges of arson, burglary, because then he wanted to set fire to the place. He set fire the following morning. He entered the grove. He discovered that the owl was not made of redwood. He thought he could actually destroy it quite easily, but was made of concrete. So he actually needed some explosives, which he didn't bring with him. And at that point, this guy then, the morning after, decided to set fire to the empty banquet hall, which triggered then an alarm, and a maintenance worker arrived. And in the end, he was basically arrested after a tense armed standoff. He was basically released a few years later, and because Alex disavowed his actions, he then became a follower of David Icke. he kind of said, "Okay, Alex disavowed me, so I want to become disavowed. So I'm going to become a follower of David Icke." At this point, though, something weird happened, because he died in a very weird way. On October 15, the Metropolitan Police in Washington, D.C. says he attempted suicide. The police found McCaslin suffering from a head injury in his truck, parked in the alley near the House of the Temple, a Masonic temple, and the Freemasons, of course, were a frequent subject of his conspiracy theories, and he was pronounced dead. The strange thing is that no further investigation was conducted. We are not due to know how a head injury in his truck was caused, and how he actually
fishy to me.
Sounds a little bit fishy to me, huh?
Yeah.
And the police saying, the guy suicided himself, like he suicided himself. Sure, it's a bit weird, really a bit weird. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Leo and Christy Zagami. Hello, everybody. We have 33 people tuned in, which is not bad at this point. So it didn't really go well for this guy who of course tried to enter the grove.
Maybe we should try to go.
No,
I'm a woman. I'll try to break in there.
Yeah, sure. Imagine there is a really strict security. I mean, when, for example, foreign people like the British Prime Minister Tony Blair went there, he couldn't even bring his own security inside the Grove. And other heads of state had to do the same thing. So
they must be doing something very bad, because if you have to pay $25,000 a year, is that how much?
Yes.
If you have to pay $25,000 a year, I mean, you've got to be getting something out of it. So there must be a lot of things going on, like bad things.
Well, there is also, of course, the usual networking that these people do, which is also regarded as very important, no? But check out.
Don't they always network? I mean, don't they always do this networking crap?
I know. It's definitely a different kind of situation from Davos. Check this out. What happened when in this concitated moment, Bill Clinton was talking, and this guy brings up the Bohemian Club or Grove, and check out what happens.
The Bohemian Club, as you say, the Bohemian Club, that's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
Let's remember what Kennedy said.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies.
And these people are the ones who actually planned also the Manhattan Project there. They planned the opening towards China with Nixon, Kissinger, always in the Bohemian Grove during their summer encampment. They're said to have planned even the killing of the Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro in the Bohemian Grove, which is, like I said, this summer encampment of the Bohemian Club. There has been at times some protesters, but guys, these days nobody protests anymore. It seems like nobody even thinks much anymore about this whole Grove play and this whole cremation of care and this whole club. It's almost like in the last few years, people have moved on to other curiosities now. But we wanted to do this episode today because there is, of course, a very interesting link also with the Sat Baha'i, which is being brought up always by Richard B. Spence, this expert. Richard B. Spence is a author of this book, but also of many other works that definitely have serious things there. I mean, they have good information. So the Sat Baha'i, I wanted to talk about the Sat Baha'i because the Sat Baha'i are a very particular kind of secret society. It's supposed to be of Anglo-Indian origin, and not many people know about it. The actual guy who probably put together the rituals ultimately was John Yarker, and John Yarker was also the author of Arcane Schools in 1910, which, of course, in which he talks about the Sat Baha'i Code, which also he discussed in a small essay used to sell. This guy, John Yarker, is a very particular kind of figure, which in the future maybe I will discuss a little bit more. He was somebody who went into Freemasonry very early in his life, didn't really like much what he saw in regular Freemasonry, so he adventured himself in all these fringe rites. He became, though, the head for the Memphis and Mizraim, that was headed at the time by Grand Hierophant Giuseppe Garibaldi, General Giuseppe Garibaldi. He then later on became responsible for the Swedenborg Rite. He was in contact with Theodor Reuss, and of course Theodor Reuss then introduced him to Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley purchased from him his 33rd degree that he had already got from a prior from an irregular source in Mexico. He wanted to have a more credible one, though having said that, John Yarkin wasn't that credible himself. And so in this website, they talk a little bit about the Sat Baha'i code and the ritual of this mysterious secret society that was probably practiced by those people also with connected to the Bohemian Club, the Shalafia. And here is the Sat Baha'i code, the Royal Oriental Order. So basically an order that in some way originated in India. You know, they created like a myth, a legend, like they do in Freemason, you know, the order of Sikh apex and of the Sat Baha'i. And they have all kinds of rules. They have their own degrees, their own ways of being able to certify the entrance of a specific person, their own obligations. So it is definitely the Sat Baha'i, an order that deem themselves as very illuminated. In fact, the sign passwords of this order very issued only by the first sponsor triennially, and then it says, but then the illuminated who are in the innermost circle are exempt from ordinary rules. An arch censor may be illuminated without preliminary. So they're all very illuminated, of course. Wow. And let's not forget, though, that John Yarker became, to this day, the United Knowledge of England can't really, he got out of regular Freemasonry, but then he became involved with the foundation of reformulation, let's say, of operative Freemasonry, which is another organization that picked up from the tradition of the old operative Masons, and Yarker wanted to relaunch operative Masonry. So John Yarker was involved in many things. He had, imagine, he had so many degrees. I think that, he had recognized by Supreme Councils of various countries, even if he stopped being a regular Mason in England, but he was still a representative for Cuba, for many other lodges around the world. And so he was definitely a character which helped very much the very foundation of what became after the OTO. In fact, the arcane schools is indicated by people in the OTO as an essential reading to understand and the rituals of the OTO. The OTO itself says to descend from the Sat Baha'i, from the Asiatic bread and whatnot. So I wanted to to give you these specifics because Richard B. Spence says that there is a connection with the Sat Baha'i and with the Bohemian Club. Like we said, Sat Baha'i connected with the Asiatic Brethren. The Asiatic Brethren, a product of the cousin of Jacob Frank, so a Sabbatean Frankist product. Then later on we have Max Theon, who was a Sabbatean Frankist himself, who gives birth to the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, which inspires the Theosophical Society, inspires Spiritism. So we always seem to find the same kind of, and then later on, of course, John Yarker becomes also, gets given a honorary title within the Theosophical Society because he was much admired. And in his arcane schools in 1909, he talks about the Arians and Christian Arians and all that stuff that basically becomes then the stuff of the pseudo-Nazi.
The Arians?
the Aryan myth that, of course, was part of Ariosophy, which was picked up and launched by those figures which we discussed when we discussed the occult roots of Nazism, like from Liebenfels and of course, I think that if Theosophy never existed, we will never have had Nazism.
I agree.
I think that is, and at the same time, if Theosophy didn't exist, we will not have had the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, and we will not have had the Novo Ordo Templi. We will not have had basically the Thule Gestalt. We will not have had Nazis.
Thanks
That's
a lot,
it.
Madame Blavatsky.
Madame Blavatsky was in connection with this secret chief. She was communicating mediumistically with entities that were clearly demonic at some point, you know.
Obviously,
so
destroyed so many
now
people.
in volume 1 of my confessions, I interviewed this member of the Bohemian Club who guarantees me, though, that no kind of evocations were ever done in the sure, but I don't know. I mean, that's what he claimed. The interview, though, that I made with him was interesting because it also demonstrated to me that these people had a lot of occult knowledge. I mean, they don't, you know, this guy was a high priest of the Bohemian, was one of the participants in that ritual which Alex filmed, basically. Okay?
That's very occult.
Okay, so and he had the biggest library. He claimed to have the second biggest library of the occult in America, in Fort Collins, in this underground basement, enormous. He was connected to witchcraft practices because he confirmed that to me. He had a lot of black magic books also. He was not just a Freemason, though I had met him in, like I explained in this book, in London at the Canterbury Masonic Research Center. And I think that it's very important, though, also for the people who are following us today to purchase volume 7, which gives you an idea of the occult roots of Nazism, the links with the Great Reset of Klaus Schwab, the Davos Posse, and all the various links with the, of course, Otto von Habsburg and all those the knighthood of the Golden Fleece and all those people. I mean, all these things you can, of course, find in volume 7 of my confessions. If you want to then also know more regarding, of course, the Sabbatian Frankists and the Asiatic Brethren, volume 4 of my confession. So you can also find all these things, and I always advise you to also purchase my wife's books, volume 2,
That's
volume
the second
1.
one. I have to get the first one. I gave it away.
You
I
gave
still
all
haven't
your
got
stuff.
it yet.
You,
Give my book away.
Ciao Franco Presta, our friend from Florence, who is tuning in now. We are, of course, broadcasting live from Palm Springs, California, and the subject of today has been this ongoing mystery on the nature of the workings of the Bohemian Grove. Now, today we explained a little bit where this Bohemian Grove comes. Once again, like I explained in volume 1 of my confessions, there is not only a similarity, but there is a link between this symbol and the symbol of the Illuminati, because, of course, the symbol of the Illuminati is also an owl. And in fact,
got the owl out. The owl over there.
Yes.
Where's the owl? I'm going to get the owl.
Go and pick up owl. Go and pick up owl. Yes, why not? Absolutely. And we could have actually showed also the Illuminati jewel. I could have picked up that out just to show. Yeah, but okay, this is the owl. Huh? Used to be actually was used in a lodge of the Illuminati, this owl. So, yeah. It was
bless this whole hour.
it was showed, to the Minervals when they were taking their degrees. So that's how it is.
I never got my Illuminati degree.
No, you didn't get it.
No, so I'm not Illuminati. I guess my book isn't true.
No, it is. I'm talking about you read this shit in London, but not in the Illuminati per se. In the first 3 degrees of the Memphis and Mason in the order, and you became master.
I know, but I didn't get the owl thing.
But you got something else.
I got the other thing.
Yeah.
That was cool. It was blue.
Yeah.
It was a pretty nice apron thing.
Yeah.
I like the color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's not that pretty though. Really.
Okay.
There's nothing. Anyway.
In any case, we have basically proven beyond any doubt, also thanks to the work of Richard B. Spence, thanks to the research that other academics have done, that definitely there is a link between the Illuminati and the Bohemian Club. This link comes from Germany. It's obvious that in Germany, everything really generated in Germany, the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, they made the pact with Faust. I don't know what else. I mean, these people seem to have really also influenced rather negatively as well as positively.
Yeah.
They made the choices. I mean, I know you party German, though. I know.
Oh, don't hold it against me.
No, I'm not holding it.
You were like German part.
But in fact, you grown up also part in Germany.
Yeah, I like Germany.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very nice country.
Yeah,
I thought that the flowers were very nice and it was very clean all the time. Everywhere was clean. Even the like roadside, you can use the bathroom and it would be sparkling clean.
Switzerland is even better. Imagine that.
I enjoyed Germany. It was like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And then it was in the 80s, so the music was so good.
I went to Germany the first time in the 80s, in 1986. So that was with my grandmother. And I went back in the early 90s instead as a DJ of one of the most prestigious clubs in Germany, which was Tresor, which I became a resident of in the first part of the 90s. And that it was Tresor. The symbol was the symbol of the Illuminati, the round circle with the dot, symbol of the sun, of gold, of alchemical gold. And it was, of course, called Tresor because it used to be the treasury of the Reichstag, so where they kept all the gold. So you had the places there in the club where they actually kept all the gold bars. And I used to play music in this place. Until,
weird.
But we went actually there together to Berlin in 2018. After
it's
20
very, very
years.
different than southern Germany, that's for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, the western part.
It was a particular experience, though. No,
I was in Bavaria, and this was completely industrial, and it was interesting, though. It was very interesting. I like going different places, so.
Yeah, no. It was. It's definitely a great experience. So I think that people have understood the connection. They have understood that these rich people are up to no good, but also that they like to surround themselves with a lot of theatrics at times. Now, these theatrics are meant to teach a lesson. The fact that they have all this secrecy is also because they discuss some very important things in this place. So they don't just discuss.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are they they made this club in a long time ago? So was it so they could be gay together?
No, okay. Now, what I heard is this, that there is definitely those who have homosexual activities, but then you have also...
It just seems like the perfect place for them to frolic around the
But also,
forest.
at times, they have invited a lot of prostitutes, up to 500 prostitutes, and they let them inside the
Are you sure that Ronald Reagan went there?
Well, absolutely. This is Ronald Reagan inside the camp.
No, he just went for the He just went for
This is Ronald Reagan.
He's probably just appalled by the whole thing. And there's Nixon too. They're both appalled.
Yeah, sure. What about?
I don't think they were perverts. I don't.
Listen, apparently there's the testimony of the maitress, one of these whorehouses around that brought his chicks in there, and so
you can say what you want.
Yeah, but then also there is the image of Pan, and then there is another image here. I don't have it here now with me, but this is another of these mockings where they hanged somebody.
That's terrible. Is that real? I stared at those pictures for so long in your book when I was at, when you first
here it
came.
says that it's maybe some money. Might be the picture lynching of public. I mean,
first of all, why are you gonna just even pretend to do that?
We have Pan, which Crowley liked very much. Pan here.
I asked you if he went there, but you said no.
We don't know if Crowley ever went there. Crowley was invited in many parts. He came to California, and he probably could have gone there.
He probably would have liked it a lot.
Yes, but it depends also from which time of the year he came, because it's not. I mean, people, of course. That was the error that a guy made, no? Because in reality, members may invite guests to the Grove whenever they want, because usually there's nothing going on. So if there's nothing going on, they can bring in some guests. But there is, guests can be invited to Grove for either the Spring Jinx in June or the May and July encampment, but that's a little bit more difficult. Club members can schedule, though, private day use events at the Grove anytime there is not being used for anything else. However, like I said, 40 years to become an old guard, and President Herbert Hoover was inducted into the old guard on March 1953. He had joined the club exactly 40 years prior, and he compared this experience to the experience he had when he passed on the presidency to the following president. So the club motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," implies that outside consents and business deals should be left outside, including the networking. But I don't think that anybody expects that, because come on, man, it's like. Plus, there is various encampments within the whole place. There is the Mandalay, where large corporation defense, it's like encampments where they all kind of mingle together. Now, the large corporation defense industry, politics, US presidents mingle at the Mandalay. In fact, there's even photos of George W. Bush father there and talking of that. Then you have the Caveman, where you have the think tanks, people from like Davos and stuff. They hang out at the Caveman, oil companies.
Alex could have gone there and hung out.
Banking, defense. You know what? The thing is that actually, they say that Alex was let in. That a lot of, there is a lot of people have been indicating that this is the case, that he was capable of going anyway, that he was let up to a certain point, and then maybe he stayed over time and then hide himself. But he obviously had some insiders who helped him out. And we have, like I said, various. Then there is another called the Stowaway. Yeah.
Stowaway.
Members of the Rockefeller families, oil companies, banking, think tanks made there. Then you have the uplifters, the top managers, corporations, big corporations. You have the Hideaway, where the military defense industry discusses all their own business. You have the Isle of Aves, military defense industry only there. You have the Silverado Squatters corner, where the large corporation defense industry mingles, and the Semper Vivens, sounds like maybe they have some sex there. California-based corporation. But Hillside, Armed Forces Joint Chiefs, and what is it? Idlewild, California-based corporation. So this is basically how the whole place is divided. And of course, it's very difficult that you are actually even allowed to get close, because there is a lot of security. So it's difficult to think that with the security, the camp valets and everything, and all the various people participating, it's very difficult that you can get even a glimpse of what's going on, because a lot of Central Intelligence Agency directors, future presidents, and former presidents are there. So the security must be extraordinary. Okay? Now, when I asked if something magic actually happened there, invocations, the guy, the high priest John Compact, I interviewed, said no. But in any case, they might not even do an invocation. They might just do these rituals. And these rituals might also include some kind of sacrifice, human sacrifice of some kind, and we will never know anything about it. Because, I mean, there is a lot of actors, there is a lot of musicians, there is a lot of people from the show business. U2 has gone there, and many other famous people have gone there in the last few years. They might only socialize, there might not be anything incredibly dark, but at the same time, there is definitely the work that they do there, political, geopolitical work, influences millions of people. And so, of course, there will be death when you start wars inside there, when you're starting the Manhattan Project, when you are basically, the bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki have been decided inside the Bohemian Grove. That is a human sacrifice.
So what are they going to do this July when they do their meeting? What do you think they're going to discuss? World War III and how...
I mean, definitely,
people from Russia
at the moment, I think that their main enemy is Donald J. Trump, because within the Republican consensus, all these people that used to be, they're like neocons, military industrial complex style Republicans, rhinos, like Crowley calls, like we call them. It's not the kind of place where you have, of course, people who want the good for the country. They want to probably further the war with Ukraine, and it's also, when it comes also to the discussions regarding the AI, probably the discussion regarding the AI, though, is a topic that can be discussed much more consequentially and in a much more detailed way in places like Davos. We have here, I think, though, that definitely if the AI becomes part of the, I mean, of course they will discuss the AI. Henry Kissinger has written a book about the AI, and Henry Kissinger is one of the most distinguished members of the Bohemian Club, who participates regularly to the Bohemian Grove. And even if he's 100 years old, he has written a very important book. I have it over there. If you want, you can pick the book of Henry Kissinger on the AI, which is over there. So yes, of course, they will discuss also the AI, and they will do it probably with the one next to it. The one next to it.
How many books do you have?
Oh, it's the one next to it is the one on the AI. Give me both. I mean, if we have to stand by the fact that one of the most prominent members is Henry Kissinger, and Henry Kissinger is an expert on the world order, but Henry Kissinger is also an expert on the age of AI. Now, today, for example, Mercedes has announced that they will launch the first 900,000 cars with ChatGPT. Now, I had really discussing ChatGPT in detail for the first time by Henry Kissinger in this book. So, I mean, it's a ChatGPT, and so even if he's 100, even if he's not such a young guy any longer, he definitely has still a lot to say. It seems like he's still very much active. Even recently we heard about his statements on the war in Ukraine and all the rest. Now, regarding the fact if they sacrifice or not, or they have only a mocking sacrifice, the voice of the owl is water concrete.
Walter.
Konkiki.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I know. But it's very traditional kind of, Walter Cronkite.
What I was supposed to say? Walter Cronkite. Yeah, Walter Cronkite.
Walter Cronkite, who is an actor, I think.
No, I think he's a news guy. Walter Cronkite.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The old news guy. So his voice,
he's from the 70s.
He's an old newscaster.
Yeah, it's the kind that you like.
It's the kind that you like, traditional. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's show. We tried to really touch on things that nobody else touched. Nobody ever made the connection between the Sabbatean Frankist, Jacob Frank, his cousin, and one of his lodges being connected with the foundation of the Bohemian Club. Wow. I mean, now we have even the evidence through also the work of historians like Richard B. Spencer that there is a real concrete connection, and that the Illuminati, but also the Sabbatean Frankists in some way influenced the birth of this very important and influential playground for the billionaires, the rich and famous, which also decide at times some of the most important events in history in this place. Because, when you're talking about the Manhattan Project, when you're talking about the first nuclear bombs to be ever used, it's of course, I think probably one of the most historical, important decisions in history ever made, and it was made in this place. So this place is a place we should exercise. We should definitely find a way to go in and exercise. So it's probably, if I ever even got close to it, I will have my citizenship.
No, that's not funny. I'm not going to Italy. Wait, I'm not going to Mexico either.
Okay, guys. Okay. I want to go with the sound. The sound. Is Rambo going to sleep, or is he going to join us?
I heard him.
Yeah? He's going to join us? No. Well, Harry Kissinger, like Rabbi Antelman, he actually, kicked him out officially of Judaism. He did a ritual, I think, in the 70s, condemning Harry Kissinger as Sabbatean Frankist. So Harry Kissinger is definitely the ultimate Sabbatean Frankist. There is a lot of evil people in every single religion, in every single race. What we can say is that Sabbatean Frankists definitely played a very important role, as well as the Jesuits. And because this kind of place, the Bohemian Club, is like an alternative to the more Catholic Opus Dei or other organizations, of course, like the Knights of Columbus, we can say that, of course, American Protestants met there from the beginning, journalists, actors, Bohemians, but then soon after the rich took over the show, and ultimately the Bohemian Club today is another elitist, super elitist society that brings together all these people from their, from a similar background of to make these important decisions. We don't know anything about it because we are always left out, and this demonstrates really how bad the situation is when we as citizens are really left totally out.
That's what they're planning, just to leave us all out.
Yeah, you know,
Out.
I mean, the
Totally out.
the Bohemian Club, it's like yesterday it was, of course, a club. Today is still a club, but tomorrow could be the norm. It's like the elite mingles and decides always in closed doors. We will never know anything
What happens
anymore.
to us? Yeah,
Well,
right. That
you know,
ain't happening.
the AI is, of course, going to become the tyrannical way to install worldwide dictatorship in the next few years. And these people, of course, are very happy of doing that because, you know, when they can decide our future, they're always very happy. Take care then. Leo Zagami, Cristi Zagami, Rambo Zagami. Rambo, how are you?
It's very heavy.
Very heavy?
He wants to get
Support us with a donation or with the purchase of a book.
Bye, everyone. See you next week on our main channel.
Yes.
And on this channel.
Yeah.
And on Facebook.
Yeah, we will try really, guys, to recover in some way. This it's not our fault. Unfortunately, censorship is really getting out of control. God bless you all. That's all, and a little bit more.